rugby is the football, but without protective gear, except for the gear that Jack wears.
It's called a scrum cap, Eric.
Yes, it is.
And knee pads.
I believe I called it
and an ankle brace.
I believe I called it a rugby hat the first time I saw one.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Gay Rugby Podcast. I'm Jack.
I'm Ozzy.
And today we're joined by Eric Anderson, president of the Los Angeles Rebellion Rugby Club and deputy director of Rugby LA. Eric, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
We're excited to have you. So, Eric, how long have you been involved in rugby?
11 years now. Yeah, it's 11 years. It'll be 12 years once my term ends next year.
Very cool.
Oh,
and
sorry, and I don't know. I had to
we
burp. Right
burped at the same time.
That's
actually.
so weird.
That's very cute.
Jinx, you owe me a soda.
Full disclosure, Eric is the president of the Los Angeles Rebellion, as Jack mentioned, the team that both of us play for. And I'm waiting for Jack to talk about how I'm retired and blah, blah, blah. But I have been training, and I am going to be back, and I am going to be playing. So,
because once you start, you can't leave.
Yeah, I know.
Except for me, because I never played.
Well, but you still haven't left, right? So.
Yes, that's
well, yeah,
true.
your
I'm never
rugby
allowed to
journey is
leave.
a little different than most of our guests so far because your partner is actually the one that plays rugby.
Yes. So should I tell the basic story?
Yeah,
the
we'd love to hear it.
2014, my husband Jim had just moved back from grad school in Texas, where he had been for a few years, and he sort of needed something to do because he was sitting around the apartment bored, and I was going to probably throw him off the balcony. And so he came home one night, and during the middle of dinner, he was like, "Oh, funny story, I decided to join the rugby club." And I thought he was kidding, because this is somebody who has tripped over his 2 feet and injures himself just walking into a room. But he joined, and he was sort of hooked from the very first moment. It was, sort of brought out his fearlessness that he has. He doesn't really think twice about trying something new that he might have zero ability at, and just goes for it. And we sort of just got sucked in. And about, the whole first year that he was in it, I wasn't really able to be very active within the club because I had a lot of work stuff on the same days as matches. And so I didn't really get involved until near the end of the year. And I remember the first thing that I went to was sort of the end of the year barbecue, our end of season party that we now throw. And back in the day, allegedly there may have been some things that rookies would have to do to, as a tradition to end their rookie time period. And one of them was, there would suddenly, I look over, and there's suddenly a bottle of Jack Daniels sitting in front of a row of rookies. And now I went to LSU, which is a professional party school for university, so I know what these things are involved. My husband, very sweet, does not, and proceeded to go to the end of the line of these rookies, and I just sat there going, "Oh no, yeah." And I watch as everybody takes sip, and hands the bottle to him after 7 people, and there's still a quarter of a bottle left, and he's just like, "Okay," and starts drinking it down. And somebody right next to me, one of the old boys, just patted me on the shoulder and was like, "Welcome to the rebellion." And I discovered, through the year, at the end of the year was when, after that was when I had started getting involved. And the current coach, her head coach, Mike McConney, was president at the time, and he sort of sucked me in and offered me the keys to the kingdom. And I needed I was looking for something to be involved in, within our community and do something a little different than I had been involved in nonprofit wise. And I liked the idea. Quite frankly, we'd lived around the rebellion for so long. We live across the street from the Eagle, so I look out my balcony and
don't blame the rebellion for that one.
Oh yes, no, but we live across the street from the Eagle. I could go on Scruff or something and see who's at the Eagle without even having to go over, and from hanging out at that bar for many years before my husband joined the rebellion, they were sort of this exclusive, inclusive blob that it was sort of like what I call basically the cool kids of the Eagle. It was like they were, all intents and purposes, like that table you walk into your first day of junior high school and you know exactly which group you want to hang out with. And I had watched them for years. They just commanded the bar. They commanded the scene in a way that, especially within a bear community that already has, issues with feeling seen and feeling and feeling accepted, that they just were fearless. They were, they had a way of capturing a presence that both challenged masculinity, the idea of masculinity, and being an athlete and what it meant to be gay, and just everything that for me at my age, my generation, just I was looking at going like, oh wow, I want that. Yeah. Whatever that is, like, you are the center of attention. You are the center of what's happening in this community, and that combined with the idea of being able to do that, how much good it could do in the community, was really appealing. So, as much as I joke that I got sucked in, I am a sucker for that sort of that type of work and the responsibility that came with it.
Yeah. So then you became president in 2015?
No, God no. I was sort of brought on as consultant, sort of, quote unquote, and then within a couple months I was on the board as vice president for a year, and then became president the year later, and then no one really didn't really want to do that job after that for a very long time. There's actually a meme about that. There's a Halloween costume, one of the Halloween costume meme that they put out every year. There's one with a rugby club president, and it literally is like, thankless job, thousands of dollars of your own personal debt, never able to leave, and it's still a volunteer job, but it's worth it. I mean, like,
people don't realize how much goes into running a rugby club, planning, field permits, scheduling, and then organizing rugby tournaments on top of that.
Well,
it's a lot of work.
And then dealing with a bunch of
drama.
Personalities. Well, I was going to say personalities.
Look, I have a saying that I like to say, that I have helped in the time that in the 10 years that I've been on our board and been involved. I've helped navigate the club through a pandemic, embezzlement, broken hearts, broken bones. We even were basically the central outbreak of the monkeypox outbreak, as we may recall. We've navigated all that and somehow made it through. I think that's sort of a testament to everybody has had to deal with, but we've dealt with more drama than your average soap opera in the rebellion.
That's very LA, right?
Which is very LA. It is truly LA, and it is, it goes with it's the nature of the beast. But at the same time, I mean, who else gets to say that they get to be the head of the most popular rugby club in the world? One of them at least. That certainly is a nice little thing to be able to constantly say. It's like, I like being able to tell everybody. It's like, yeah, I run TikTok's favorite gay rugby club, because it just makes everybody stop and they're like, what is it? What are you talking about?
Well, for those without context, Los Angeles Rebellion Rugby has one of the largest social media followings and view counts of any amateur rugby club in the world. So that's been pretty cool. And it's been a great way to recruit. We've seen a ton more people joining and playing rugby, and we've also seen rugby clubs across the world kind of following suit and creating content, and the community is growing faster than ever.
Yeah, one thing that I will also point out that is pretty cool is sometimes, because we're on social media, people in other states or even outside the country, they'll reach out and say like, oh, I want to join a rugby team. Is there a team in my area or locally? And so we'll send them the information of whatever the RGR team is that is in their community. So that's been pretty cool too.
And I think that's like the most important thing. Like, it's fun being like, quote unquote, popular on the internet, and being like whatever you would want to call, in our minds, being an influencer, in our small little niche world of rugby. But
content creator
within, but
semantics.
I think that the larger benefit and the positives that we're able to bring, because it does open up doors. The more visibility, the visibility that we have makes it possible for smaller IGR clubs to flourish.
Yep.
It makes for groups, even if it's not just inclusive sports in general, people who are interested in being athletes. Sadly, a majority of our players that join our club are still the people who were bullied and prevented from being a part of sports when they were younger.
Yeah.
Or they were involved in
identify
sports
with that personally.
Yeah. Or they were involved in sports and they had to conceal their identity for fear of being of recrimination and retaliation. So this opens a door that if it's possible for the more visibility we have, the more it makes it possible for other people. And this is the same for so many of the other bigger IGR clubs present. Like it's not just us; it's the Fog, it's Gotham Rugby, it's Seattle Quake. All these places, it creates it's a united movement.
Yeah.
And I think that at the same time, it's also the amount I wake up every morning to see the hate that we get and the comments that we get every day.
I was gonna say when you said we're the most popular rugby
Yeah,
club,
we're also the most, but it's like
we also get a lot of hate.
It's like the Howard Stern. It's like it's like half the people loved him and loved him, and half the people loved to hate him. And there's going to be people out there who have nothing better in the world in their day than to start out their day sending something to the Gay Queer Rugby Club. How much they disapprove, except for the fact is that they're the only ones spending the time doing this. And if that's how they want to spend their time, sure, I'm just going to block them. I hope they enjoyed themselves.
Well, and it's like it's on your For You page. So what does that say about you?
And it's also that there is a lot of that out there. And there's a lot we know that obviously social media allows a lot of people to say things that they wouldn't necessarily say in real life behind that screen. And I like to believe that the more visible we are and the more we don't shy away from both important topics and important issues and the things that are affecting our players, but then also not shying away from, the fantasy of rugby that we all know and love, to which we are very good at that in our social media. I think that both of those things, it's like that. It just representation is normalization.
Yeah. Yep.
And the more that we are unauthentically, unashamed and absolutely authentic in our story,
yep.
That makes us we're the heroes of our own story.
Yep.
And each person who joins the club, I've watched too many people go through the club, come through those our proverbial doors, and just change as people. I've seen both of you change. Especially you, Jack. Like it's like you were a little younger when you joined, and compared to Ozzy,
The shade that's being thrown around.
I mean, look. Whatever. But I mean, I've seen
I will
how
tackle both of you right now.
I've seen it do, like Jack, how much you've changed and grown as like just as a entrepreneur and as a creator and things over the years. I've seen how my husband changed. My husband became a different kind of man in front of my eyes as a result of it, and it. I've become different. I'm a different completely different person than I was beforehand, and it's very interesting being at the tail end of what I'm doing now because whatever my role is certainly not going to be changing that much. I just don't have to have the burden of all the decisions every day, and I can leave it to the person who is just chomping at the bit to be able to have all that responsibility.
Well, you know what? I think the biggest change for me, at least that I've experienced since joining the rugby team, is I have bigger loads and better taste, and that's thanks to Popstar. It's a male health supplement that does just that.
Increases volume.
It enhances taste. And that has been one of the biggest changes that I've seen. Maybe not in the past 7 years that I've been playing rugby, but absolutely in the past few months that I've been taking Popstar.
I can attest.
Back to
Yes.
your story.
Yes.
What has been the biggest challenge or obstacle that you've overcome as the president of the Los Angeles Rebellion?
I don't think
Club?
I'm legally allowed to talk about that one. No, actually,
We'll talk about the second.
How about we go with the fourth? I would say, there's so many of them. I think I think that everybody comes into rugby. People join something like this, especially in our we are the avenue for the average person who's never played sports to try a sport, to try this sport at least. And for those who might be looking, there's such a large. LA is lucky to have a very large, inclusive athletics sort of programs around the city, from wrestling to kickball, softball, etc. And we're one of them, but we're one of the few that also requires a lot of commitment. You can't just go out and play rugby the way that you can play some of the other sports. No offense to those other sports, and people are looking to have something, and you have people who are coming in who are both weekend warriors all the way to the complete novice. And
I quickly want to mention I don't want to take away from other sports teams or other sports, but I also think that rugby, there's a lot of hand-holding that's required, especially for brand new players, because
can't get hurt. You're gonna get hurt. You're gonna get killed on that field if you on that pitch if you don't know what you're doing.
But you don't. You're not flipping through channels on a weekend and you're watching a rugby game, because it's just simply not that popular in the States. It's getting more visibility now, but it's not like soccer or basketball or football where you can watch it and at least kind of understand and learn the game by watching.
Or you might have even more likely were even exposed to it to some degree, like some 6-week unit when you were in school. At some point, you had to play these sports. At some point. Yeah, it's like you aren't really familiar with rugby. You're like, oh, well, rugby is the football, but without protective gear, except for the gear that Jack wears.
It's called a scrum cap, Eric.
Yes, it is.
And knee pads.
I believe I called it
an ankle brace.
I believe I called it a rugby hat the first time I saw one, and I believe that my CFO has not let me live that down for about 10 years. But
also the knee pads that Jack's talking about, he wears them all the time. It's not just on the pitch, so I don't know what he's talking about.
I think that there's expectations, and you want to do well, and so I think obviously one of the challenges is making sure that everybody has an opportunity. But at the same time, we're playing against other clubs that are just traditionally, especially in Southern California, which most often than not in every division wins their national championships. So this is like huge. Rugby at the amateur level is huge in Southern California. So I think that not everybody can play. Not everybody is able to. I believe everybody has a right to come and step on that pitch and train, learn how to play rugby. Not everybody can play like a D3 rugby against every team, because if your ability is not there. So having to be able to navigate those kind of situations where what people want to do and what people believe their abilities are versus the reality of that and the safety of that, sometimes it's different.
Is a priority.
I also think that it's very easy, no matter how much we all say, warn people, it's very easy to get caught up in. This is a second family. When you're in a family, and new people are coming into the family. I'm always amazed at how quickly people just are part of the group. Like, that's so not me. Like, I did not grow up as that kind of person. Like my social anxiety and I was this extroverted introvert that needed to have people actually know me well before I could actually feel like I was part of something. And I envy so many of the young people on the team, the younger ones, who just immediately are just friends with everybody, and they're just chit-chatting on the group chat on our comms app as if they've been there for like months or years. I'm like, who are you? I don't even know who you are.
Mute.
But it's so great, because that means that we're creating an environment where they all feel welcome.
Yeah. And just to provide a little context, the Los Angeles Rebellion Rugby Club, our mission is to make rugby accessible to everyone, even if you have no experience playing the sport. We host Rugby 101 clinics a couple times a year, where we invite people who have never played rugby before to join our team. And I think, just going back to what Eric said about how our team is comprised of people who have never played rugby before, or maybe a competitive sport. And so that's why maybe we're not able to keep up with some of the D3 teams all the time.
But at the same time, we also are mostly, I would say, not mostly concerned with, but our attention is certainly on what we do when we travel to IGR tournaments, like the North American Cup and Bingham Cup. I think that's really a source of pride. This past Bingham in Rome, when the Rebellion finished 15th in the world, is a very huge source of pride. Now, I love, there's a blank space on my mantle for one more trophy because I get to keep all the old trophies too on our stuff. So I would love another one just for a little while. But I just think that there's, the challenges are also the biggest challenges have also been led to, in most cases, some of the biggest wins for us. Mm-hmm. COVID was a huge challenge. How do you stop what do you do when you have an organization that has just completely had to stop? Yeah. And then you have to find a way to come back. Mm-hmm. And I look at some of the other rugby clubs, and they will hear this, and they will be very mad at me for saying this, but it's happened again for a second time, so I'm perfectly proud of it. We went out and recruited, but we recruited differently. We were like, you need someplace. You need someplace to go. And especially in our community, when every bar was shut down and everything, all anybody had was their little bubbles, whatever that size of the bubble may or may not have been. Mm-hmm. But they needed social isolation. Isolation is such a huge issue. And loneliness, and quite frankly, loneliness within men is also an incredibly huge issue these days with mental health. So the idea that we both were able to maintain connection with our club, within the club, over that time period, and then come back with like nearly 100 members coming out, and those kinds of that ability to just start fresh and stay, like, again, it's everyone's welcome. And the same thing has happened this year, where we've just had a really successful recruiting class where we have about 78 players training with us this year.
And you know what's been so interesting is that so many of those people have no experience playing rugby, and I often find that some of the best rugby players are the ones that were like, oh, I never played sports as a kid because I didn't think I could, or I was excluded by my peers, and now they're just finding out. Maybe they're 27 or 30 or 35, and they're like, whoa, I'm good at sports.
It's like a hidden talent.
I can actually play this. And I don't have a bunch of little kids telling me that I'm stupid and ugly and can't do anything that I want. So,
and there's two that I would point out on our team, for example, that we have. There's one. Both were, I think they've been around for a couple of years. One isn't playing as much now, but
I'm right here.
One of them. One of the players was just this tiny little twink of a kid.
It is you.
Yes, it is you. But was also like the state wrestling champion for New York, and just like you'd think looking at him that any rugby player was going to just break them in half, and watching people be shocked by how well they could play, like on the opposing team, was great. Yeah. The other one, we have another player who's a forward who, I swear, every time, like the first year, every time that he made a tackle, the thud that you could hear resounding across our pitch was just so wild. Like, it's like, oh, you're like, okay, you get this. You're gonna be fine. And that's what's great. It's the energy. The no matter whether they play, there's just a rush that comes from playing. And I know, I having never played, I don't necessarily know that full rush. I like to say my hands are prettier on the sidelines.
There's a rush even when you're just watching your significant other play, because they're putting their life in danger and you're just watching them helplessly on the side.
especially once they become a referee. I think that there is the sideline's such an interesting thing, because it's not the same kind of sideline as like a football sideline where you've got everybody yelling at everybody, because there's not supposed to be quite as much yelling, and that's one of those things that it can get out of hand in amateur sports.
That reminds me, when you're on the sideline, you're watching your loved one. I think you coined a phrase to call them. What do you refer to them as?
Wait, what?
Someone's significant other.
Rugby. Rugby wife, but rugby.
Rugby.
Oh, yes. At the Rebellion, we're called the Rugbays. It was a term that was coined by a former president and sort of the benefactor of the club for an era of the club. Who, when I was first joining, he was sort of the tail end of his time with the era with the club, and after just one year, he coined the phrase rugby. I don't really know if it's been coined anywhere else before that. We're pretty sure it was not, and we've done our due diligence to make sure we could protect it a little bit. But he just decided to start calling all the supporters that, and there was 3 of us the first year that he did that who had been volunteers and had been working out. And let me tell you, the power of being given a T-shirt with like, I don't even understand, but it was something like, oh, I'm part of this now. Like I'm a rugby, and I was like. I mean, like, I don't know why I sit there and use that. It's in my bio that I'm an OG rugby. Like, it's like it is a source of pride because I'm very proud of like the and especially then there was a couple more that added in the next year after that who were all really important. I mean, like so much of this stuff, my entire career and my entire world became about rugby as a result of this, and it was a result of the rebellion, and this. I ended up, working for Rugby LA, which is the West Coast's like largest after-school provider. It's basically the avenue for kids in after-school programs to be introduced to rugby. Yeah. That organization was formed by a former rebellion player, and whose wife was one of the rugbays as well. Yeah. And as a result,
can we shout him out?
Shout out to Harrison and Marcel. Of course, he would be very mad if I didn't shout him out. I mean, if it hadn't been for that, if it hadn't been for the fact that Marcella basically would say that she knew that she liked us better than his other team, but
are you allowed to say that?
Yes, I can say that. But I think that those positive relationships allowed me to develop a friendship with Harrison, and that when he came back, knowing like the skills I had, when he was able to come back and say, "Hey, I'm founding this new organization. I'd like you to be on board and bring you in." Similarly, with Rugby LA, I love the partnership that we have with the Rebellion, because we've been able to bring on 5 or 6 players to be our coaches of our little kids.
Amazing.
Which is really just great to see, because it's not only providing employment in a city that is, especially if you're in the entertainment industry, there's not that much work right now, but it was this has been an exciting ride to be able to go from being just a supporter in a rugby to being involved in the board to, creating a career out of rugby, and even like going into the sort of entertainment world. Yeah, focused on the sport.
And I know we talk about athletes a lot, but we were talking about rugby's right now. If you guys are watching and you know who the Los Angeles Rebellion is already through us or through your For You page, go check them out. You can also be a rugby. They could go to rebellionrugby.org, and you can become an official rugby. So go check it out.
And so that's the best way to support the team.
Yeah, I think, and I would say certainly it's every team, and even if you're a rugby fan and you're not in LA, if there's a club in your community, they have their own supporters, of course, and every one of our clubs welcomes every one of the clubs, even whether gay or straight. Everybody wants somebody at the sideline, because it's fun to play, but it's more fun when you have a crowd coming in and watching, and it doesn't need to be, the loyalists are really what's fun, because it's a whole thing. Yeah. I actually think that's one of the interesting things about the sport is it's not about the tailgating per se of like with football. There's the tailgating part, and then there's the football part, and there's something different about rugby that I haven't quite pinned it, but it's
because we do the tailgating on the
tailgating. Yeah, the tailgating happens in the game. It's I sort of I call it like I'm a trained musician. That's what I went to college for, and there's a particular college that, during the middle of recitals, they oftentimes will just tap the keg for a reception during the intermission of the recital, which I think is like sort of like, well, you just you totally like release the pressure valve, and you can have fun at your recital then. And that's interesting to me, and I think that there's something similar to that in rugby, in that it is a party from the beginning, from kickoff to the end, and it is about just, and especially in amateur rugby, you're not there. You're making a choice to be there. Yep. You are making the choice to go. If you're a player, you're making the choice to get your ass like kicked on the whether you win or lose.
And to kick
your
ass.
Body, like whether you win or lose is not the point. It's that your body is going to leave, everything is going to hurt, and I'm dying is in half phase. And then you're going to spend the next day or two wondering when you're going to play again, and whether you're going to ever be able to move again. And then you get up and you do it all over again. But it's a choice. You are choosing to put yourself into this. You could choose to go just like play kickball and run around the bases.
It's too easy.
But it's not the same thing.
It's not
And
the
it
same thing.
doesn't give that same kind of rush, especially, I will keep coming back to the people who haven't played sports before. When they discover that rush of like, oh, okay, this is
what this feels like.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier that you were at the tail end of where you're at.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on what that means?
That basically means that I'm very fortunate this past year. We had a new board member who is both very resourceful, very committed and dedicated, but also was the type of player that I could tell. I'm trying to say this nicely so he doesn't get mad at me. That I could tell that the sideline was going to be like a place that he was going to flourish at, like as much as on the pitch, because that's something like, just seeing how he would be more involved in helping run things and not
the organizational side of it.
And that's important. And just the level of dedication and commitment to that is rare because it's a volunteer. People have real jobs and real lives and stuff, and it's rare to find somebody whose partner and everybody else is as much as openly willing as my husband was to put up with all this, because you're not just putting up, you are putting up with a lot of responsibility and a lot of debt and a lot of tears and bloodshed and all the I clean up after the beer, bruises, and bad choices, and when I'm not making my own bad choices, and that's what they have to do as well. And it took a long time before we had another person other than like myself and our CFO who really wanted, delusional enough and naive enough to want to take that on and do it for a couple of years. And I do believe that it's important for good leaders to be able to know when to step, when it's time to be able to allow a new chapter to be written. But being able to hand off to somebody and be able to walk away from some of the day-to-day, because a president of a rugby club, as I've discovered and as having talked to and worked with a lot of the people at the end in Major League Rugby as well. When you're the president, you are both your president, your CEO, your general manager. You are the head of marketing. You are pretty much like 7 jobs in one. Mm-hmm. And I like the idea of just like sort of being CEO. I do enjoy, I will say more than I love being able to say that I technically own a rugby club. I mean, there is no owner of a club in our structure, but technically, like, from all the bank's purposes, which means technically I'm like Cameron Diaz in any given Sunday, and I love that. I like being that.
What's next for you and the team?
What's next for me and the team? We celebrate our 25th anniversary starting this year. We're kicking it off at our Rucktacular Tournament in Palm Springs in December. And so then we will be focused on that for the whole year. A lot of that's going to be highlighting our history, our legacy, and then also really trying to tie that to what the next chapter is going to be. Obviously, immediately, like there's a role for the rebellion in Los Angeles because with the Olympics coming to LA, and then a few years in 28, and then in 2031, the likelihood, even though the host cities haven't formally been announced, we are like Los Angeles will likely be a host city for part of the World Cup, and then 2 years later for the Women's World Cup. I think that the rebellion as the representative of inclusive rugby then plays a huge role in welcoming people, welcoming the queer community and queer rugby players, from around the world. I think that's going to be a huge thing for us to focus on.
Speaking of inclusion, what can we look forward to at Rucktacular? I think it's the first of its kind, right? At Rucktacular.
Yes. Oh well. Yes. I don't necessarily want it. We are not recreating we haven't invented the rocket ship that's going to reach Mars yet or anything. So Rucktacular is an annual tournament that rotates, being hosted. It's held every December. It's hosted by the 3 California clubs, the Fog, us, and the San Diego Armada, and rotates between the 3. This year is our year. I decided in my big dumb brain full of big ideas that wouldn't it be fun if we went out and did it in Palm Springs this year? Partly because it's like whenever it rains in LA, it's just the most nerve-wracking, horrible experience in the entire world to worry about a tournament that might rain out. Yeah. And I also think that we've seen a lot of our older players and our supporters and many of our current players decide that Palm Springs is kind of where everybody's going to end up. We're all, and I think that it's kind of a good idea to start forming that second satellite location out there, so that when we're all living together as Golden Girls, we can
there's a trajectory.
There's a trajectory, and there's very few people that in our club, at least within our club, that have had children. I don't know what the path is for any of the couples in our club, or single people who might end up if they don't. So we don't have a lot of people looking out for us when we get older. And as somebody who had to take, I don't know about the two of you, but I had to take care of a parent for several years, and especially through COVID, and that's hard. And I think about that a lot, about who's going to be there to take care of me or my husband when we get older. I see that some of our older players do that right now regularly. They actually regularly take care of seniors and other retired individuals who are living, say, in the HIV/AIDS housing provided by the LGBT Center, Triangle Housing, or out in Palm Springs. And I think that we have a duty, we've created this second family. You're not a second family only for the couple of years that you might play rugby. You should be once a rebel, always a rebel. And having that base out where a lot of people are moving, and a lot of people allows for both a social support system to still exist. It means that we really are saying that for your lifetime, once you become a rebel, you have that lifeline forever. You should, and it should be that. So I think that that's one important thing. The other thing that we're doing, so we are going to hold a trans match, trans and gender fluid match as part of the day. The whole tournament is a friendly tournament, so it's basically all the clubs get to play 3 matches, half-hour matches. It's for most of the clubs, about 3/4 of the clubs, it's the beginning of their season, so it's for the beginners. It's the first opportunity for them to play. Mm-hmm. For the returning players and for the other half of the clubs, it's the end of their season. We have IGR itself, both at Bingham Cup in Rome and at the North American Championship, have had the opportunity to hold trans matches for the first time on the national and global level. These were open to any trans non-binary players, allies that wanted to support and play in this particular match. It's, in many ways, it's very much a statement in support of a community that is continually being ostracized and prevented from participating fully, as I believe is their right in sport. You should be allowed to play sport with the identity of your choice, your identity and who you are. You should not have to worry about hiding that or being kept out for any reasons of your identity. We're not recreating the wheel here, in terms of it's not the first trans match ever in the entire world or anything. But I think
it's still exciting.
It's very exciting. It's important to be able to do this, because what I'll say is that I think that what's really great is that it's also a sign and a testament to the work that's been done in all of our clubs, from the as far south as Spicy in the Armada, all the way up to Seattle, and even into our fellow sister club, Vancouver, that can't, unfortunately, the Rogues that can't come because, again, politics.
And then I think I forgot to mention earlier the Phoenix.
Phoenix Sun, yes.
Phoenix
Storm are coming too as well. I think that for all of our clubs, the ability to have these types of matches has given us the leverage and the legitimacy, so that when we're going back into these communities, it's not like, we're just doing it so we can say we can do it. We've gone from maybe 5% of our club identifying as trans or non-binary to about 20% of our club in just a year, and that's not just people. That's not people feeling free with their identity to be open about their identity. That is really about people who are looking for a club that was going to welcome them. Yeah. And I've seen the joy that they have, that everybody has, not only being included, but the fact that we really are. It's diversity, but again, getting back to representation is normalization. There is no different. We are a completely gender inclusive, and it's taken a long time because it's hard to say you're inclusive and then say, but you're a men's only rugby club. Yeah. And that is a challenge within the nature of rugby that they split by gender. The reality is we are not the ones who opened up this door. Some of the other clubs started admitting women into to play along because that's who they wanted to play with, and we just decided, okay, we're going to do that too, and we're not going to shy away just because particularly knowing the areas that we compete in, we weren't going to shy away and worry about a lack of tolerance. Yeah. It is not our job. It is not our job to mitigate and. It's our job to protect and keep our players safe. It is the responsibility of the opposing teams to step up and responsibly and respectfully interact with us, regardless of whether their personal beliefs or whether they hold.
Yeah. Just to clarify, I meant like this was the first trans match at Rucktacular.
Yes,
right?
This is the first trans match at Rucktacular. Hopefully, I think everybody enjoys the luxury of every president when they're hosting is that they get to introduce new things to the tournament that then everybody else has to do afterwards.
The bar's been set.
The bar's been set. So sorry, San Diego. San Diego, but that's the thing. San Diego also was already on board with this. San Francisco's already on board with this. We all wanted to be able to do this. It's the fact that it's like it takes a little bit of extra organization, but it's just joy. It's just bringing more joy. I mean, that is ultimately, we are not doing, this is not a political statement. We are not the spectacle. We are not here to be anyone else's, to be something that other people can use for their political purposes. This is simply joy. It is the joy of rugby, and to be able to play it safely and a pitch that is fully welcoming and supportive of who you are, no matter who you are, what you believe, or who you love.
Awesome.
Love that.
Well, Eric, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
It.
Thank you for having me on here.
Absolutely.
I'm so thrilled. That we love you guys, and we're so happy for the podcast and the success you guys have had this year.
We appreciate that. And you know what else we appreciate? Our fans. We want to thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Gay Rugby Podcast. And we want to encourage you to subscribe on YouTube and hit that bell to change your notifications to notify all, and that way you won't miss out on every episode. We're dropping new episodes every Monday. Follow us at Gay Rugby Podcast on Instagram and TikTok. And remember,
don't just play the sport,
change the sport. Woo! Eric, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you guys.
And follow the Rebellion, rebellionrugby.org.
Los Angeles Rebellion Rugby Club. Rebellion Rugby on social media, and make sure to check out the website, and we will see you in Palm Springs December 13th. Looking forward to it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning into another episode of the Gay Rugby Podcast. If you liked this video, do us a favor and subscribe. Hit that bell to change your preferences to notify all, and that way you'll get a notification every time a new episode comes out, which is going to be every Monday. So share this video with a friend, comment, and we appreciate the support. We'll catch you on the rugby pitch. See ya.